Hey everybody, Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. Anyway, I'm in the exhausted phase. I think, fall coming in. This year's been kind of interesting because, the word has been kind of like delicate and allowing. And yeah, I realized this morning, sometimes, when I'm at different places and I'm growing food, this is all my beautiful lettuce going to seed now. Boy, did I pump out a lot of produce for people this summer just out of this little area. Made people's lives brighter. You can see my wild hair in my shadow. Oh yeah, look, morning hair. Anyway, so this is all my lettuce and varieties. I think I have, nine heirloom varieties of lettuce. And I just kind of let it all kind of grow together. That was what I did. And it worked out beautifully. And by far it needs a lot less water once it starts growing. Because, there's more ground cover. So, and I'll leave the stems, cut them off at the base once I'm done taking the seeds. And then I'm probably going to compost the stalks. And I do still have third round lettuce heads coming up. And even like some fourth rounders. So it's not giving up. It's not giving up. And it's not giving up on me. So yeah, this is going to be beautiful lettuce to collect seed from. And the bees here, because it's like I live kind of more in a deserty setting and there's just way less flowers for them. And I've seen some incredible bees this year. My arugula is all going to seed. It's not ready quite yet to pick. It needs to get a little bit browner and then I can pick the pods. Yay! Anyway, we're just kind of going around the garden. I got my beautiful little marjoram, which I needed badly. Yep, so here's my arugula going to seed. I got a nice big patch of arugula. My carrots didn't really do so good, but check that out. My carrots are flowering. Just a couple of them. So, yeah, kind of interesting. It's been a really interesting season and garden anyway. Pretty crazy. Here's my Cabbage Patch. It's looking pretty good. Got 2 varieties. Grew 4. But only 2 came up. Then I've got... And fennel had a hard time. It was so hot. But these fennels, I think... I'm going to definitely let this one right here, because it's the best one. Super nice genetics. I'm definitely going to let that one go to seed and collect the seeds from it. But yeah, I got 5 fennels, and I had to really baby those guys this year. So their seeds will be really good because this was a tough area for fennel, and they survived it. So they have a little bit more, information in their hard drive now how to grow here. So next year they'll be exceptional. And then I still have like another arugulas coming up, and I have different kinds of kale coming up. I started with kind of the Russian red kale and some of the bigger types of kale, like that guy over there. And then the dino kale came up finally, and there's like some other, interesting types of shards. And then the shard came up, but I only, shard didn't do very good. I only have, I think 2 chard plants. I got one over there and one over here. And then the curly kale came up. Only the green, the red didn't come up. So I think as far as like kind of kale-y, chardy species, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 varieties that did make it. And then I've still got a few just starting off lettuce heads. Yay. I mean, they're going to go directly to seed because it's getting cooler, but you can still eat them. They're good. And, you know, it's good to collect seed from the whole thing. So if I collect seed from this lettuce, and then, you know, I take all that down and blah, 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 blah. And then I let this stuff seed further into the season, the littler ones. And then I'll have like 2 different varieties of seeds, really, because the other ones would have seeded, you know, after these ones. So it would have picked up a lot of information about the weather, the sunlight, and water this time of year. But yeah, this stuff's amazing type lettuce. It's so good. Yum. And then there's a kind of a bigger bush of it right there. This is like one of my favorite lettuces, and it's like one of the craziest, most fibrous heirloom lettuces, but this thing is amazing. And it'll grow far, far, because it's tough. And so it's going to grow far into the winter, which is going to be great. And then there's another kind of species of lettuce that I love that's just tough as nails. And it's so fibrous. And it's probably closer to what lettuce used to be, like really hard and you know, kind of tough to eat. Would have been way better on our teeth. But this guy's amazing. But he'll grow pretty long time in the cold because he's tough. He's tougher. So this lettuce was just so amazing. Look how beautiful the purple leaves are. It was kind of like eating exotic salad, you know, with the dog is not supposed to be coming into the fence, and she's taking the fence down. And here's my lamb's quarter that has seeds on it, and then I cut it way back to a small area just because it's a super seeder, and I only want lamb's quarter to grow in here. And this stuff will start growing early, which means I'll have salad early. Next spring, or whoever's here will have salad early. And so start being able to eat greens and stuff that has nutrition out the gate. So yeah, so kind of exciting. I mean, and seeding is like just so, I mean, it's like a whole other, it's like a beautiful ritual, right? Because the seed, the plant, produces, you know, however it's going to produce seeds. And then it has to produce a flower. And then it has to trust that a pollinator is going to come and pollinate it. And then when that happens, then all of this turns into a seed pod. And then it moves into the process of, you know, flying out, you know, all over the place, or shaking out in the wind, depending on, you know, like the design of the seed. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. I did get a little locust attack on my cabbages, but everything else is just, considering the fight and considering the heat and just the whole thing, it just, you know, it just, look at this little flower bed. I started it, and then now I've kind of completed it, and it's completely seeded even for next year. And then all this stuff is going to reseed in there. And then this will start coming up earlier than it did this year. And they'll have lots of varieties of flowers. I mean, next year these mulleins are going to grow stalks. nasturtiums battled. So if I get seeds from them, next year's seeds will be better. But they're still battling away. My bee balm is kind of battling away. And this lavender. But anyway, so this will be a really great pollinator bed that'll start out early. And I did get enough pollinators, you know, for my garden, but barely enough. So, yeah, and thank God the bees are still pretty hungry and really collecting, and and you know, so they're pollinating like mofos. All right, so anyway, let's go check out my Tulsi basil. So we pulled out a couple carrots this morning. There's the composter mashing down again, and I'll have to fill them. They need to come down quite a bit more, and so I'm saving kitchen slop and green. I think a lot of those lettuce stalks are gonna go in that pile too, so kind of saving lettuce stalks for after they're done seeding. That's another little flower bed there, and taking down the corn now. Corn was funky. And then I just want to show you kind of stuff that I'm doing because, you know, like I'm trying to do a food forest and trying to kill off the grass here. I've got 12 different types and it's just too crazy. But I did plant arugula took. I've got 2 types of parsleys. I've got a hummingbird flower that'll reseed. Some other kinds of wildflowers. I've got a little Tulsi basil in there. Oh no, that's the Thai basil. I threw a couple tomatoes in there too, heirloom tomatoes, and they'll biodegrade, and if the quails don't eat them, then maybe some tomato plants will pop up. But, you know, this helps the soil by growing different things in it next to this bush. And also, yeah, it's like a little mini bed of herbs and stuff to eat. And then I put in the tire here Tulsi basil, just because I like to come out every morning and look at it, and it's so good. When it's really hot out and you water it, the smell, because there's like this release of this essential oil type, and the smell's incredible. And this morning I dug up 2 carrots, one for me and one for Jen, and the smell of the carrot when I was scrubbing the dirt off of it was so just magical, like, you know, like perfume. It was so yummy to eat. I just sat on the porch and was quiet and just munched on my carrot. It was so yummy. So anyway, sunflowers are gone out of here. Still got lots of weeding to do, of course, but this garden bed really did good this year. I'm kind of proud of it. So we've just got regular types of basil, and it's going to seed. And the thing is like next year I've got some prickly lettuce, which is good for pain, so I'm letting it seed. Lemongrass did super good. Look at my sweet mint. My sweet mint is just cranking. It's even kind of like helped the lemon balm a lot, because the lemon balm was getting battered this summer from the heat, and the mint is just such a stronger, this mint is stronger than the lemon balm. So I'm going to get ready here pretty quick to make lemon balm tincture. So I actually might do that today for just calming, soothing, in case I need some stress relief. And I'm thinking about doing a catnip balm, tincture today. And then I've got this beautiful ground peppermint. It hasn't flowered yet, but it is going to explode in beauty. And then my oregano, it's starting to make a move for seeding. And I want to actually, you know, cut back these plants too. You know, after they're done flowering and seeding, before they go, south for the winter. I want to definitely, I'm saving bottles right now because I have time. And definitely want to save all these herbs for winter and growing, or, just making a tea out of. I was thinking about just doing a big paper bag and doing a big medicinal blend of tulsi and basil and rosemary and sweet mint, peppermint. I mean, it may be a really funky tea, and catnip. I might just save the oregano and thyme for cooking and then put the other stuff in for a tea. So, and still have parsley. I mean, parsley's so good for you. Like, I'm just trying to grow it everywhere. And then hopefully next year it'll come up. Here's another variety of parsley. And mind you, I seeded all this stuff early in spring. But it's just kind of, the sun has been so wacko doo-doo. I mean, serious wacko doo-doo. And then here is prickly lettuce. Look at that. And so I'm going to come out and harvest these little, they're like little globe. Let me see if I can get one. They're just like these amazing little, I don't know if I can get close enough to see one. There's one, but they're just like, and they're just globy with the seeds in the middle. And so they can fly away, right? And you have to be careful not to breathe on them. But look at the sacred geometry. Take a look at the sacred geometry of this plant seed. I mean, look at it. The sacred geometry is just, just totally crazy. So this plant, I like to try to, sorry, I guess I made the video mad. But this plant, I mean, think about how good, like, you've got pain, and it is like a, I think they call it like latex fluid, and this kind of stuff, it goes into the opiate brain receptors, but it doesn't act like opium. And from what I've read is that there have been, I guess, I don't know, people that have done studies on, here's my big bag of Hopi sunflowers, and I think paper bags work the best, for seeds like this. And I had to take them all down because the ants were starting to use my sunflower plants for nefarious reasons. And they were trying to cultivate some, because that's what they do. They were trying to cultivate some aphids. And so I had to take the stalks down, and the seed pods weren't quite ready yet, so to be, so anyway, I had to kind of do that. So that's what I did. So now the seed pods are in a paper bag and waiting to dry and all of that. And I think, I really like to, if you saw my herb room right now, you'd see everything in paper bags. So I have all these different paper bags, and I put the plants in them for drying. Sometimes I dry a lot of the stuff before I put them in the bag, but the product keeps, getting aerated a little bit. I think it's better than plastic, to be honest. And then, when things slow down, and I'm done collecting seeds out of the yard from everything, then I'll be able to do long-term storage. So then I'll move them into that. So right now we're still in collection and seed drying phase. So anyway, yeah, so that's kind of like what's happening and what's going on here. I kind of want to also talk about, so FEAR, fear. False evidence appears real. So there's a faction of beings. You can see I don't know if you can see the quail way out there past the fence, but there's a whole bunch of quail out there moving around. They're waiting for me to come up here on the porch and Jen to go in the house. Here they come. So they could do their morning walkthrough. So hopefully they'll come in and they'll do their morning walkthrough and you guys can see. You can see them. They're scouting right now. What's it look like over there? And then, you know, oh, see there's a scouter on the fence. Looking around, checking to see what's going on. And then what'll happen is the scouter, oh yeah, scouter's coming in. The head honcho, he's taking a look around and he's doing a preliminary check. And he's going to see what the seed situation is today. And then here comes his girlfriend. So they're like the head couple. Now what'll happen is that once they assess the situation, they'll start making quail noises and they'll tell everybody, hey, the coast is clear over here, so come on over. And so she's going to kind of slowly follow in. It's interesting. She's going to follow him, kind of the exact areas that he went into. And so, because he's checking around the side of the house, and here she comes. So she's trying to catch up with him, but, you know, also chowing down. Anyway, I just love them. I just love watching them. So, fear, you know, is this word. No, love, I guess, is the other word. Either you're in love or fear. I don't really think that's a good polarity or parallel. You know, love versus fear. I think it's more like being in awareness or fear, right? You're in fear or you're in awareness. You're in fear or you're intentionalizing. You're aware. You're intentionalizing through awareness, or you're in fear, which means is a projection. I think either one is a projection, but fear is a projection onto you, where intentionalizing awareness is a projection from you inside of you onto the outside world. One is co-creation, and one is societal retardation, which, you know, I'm not using that, you know, because of people that have disabilities, but it's retarding, slowing down, stopping, or even, you know, altering growth. And that's kind of the way that I'm using it. So, a few things. I mean, we're dealing with so many different kind of dimensional beings and physical beings. And they all have agendas. And that means that whatever is going on here in this reality, there's also multiple agendas going on. And so the fear, I mean, even it's interesting because even in an alternative right now, like the alternative underground media and people are touting a lot of this fear factor. So it's even being kind of implanted into those communities and they're picking it up. And it's false evidence appears real. So there's factions that of beings that need to keep us in fear because they need us to keep staying stuck where we're at and in crisis mode, because that keeps us kind of imprisoned, right, in our spot and in our location, and focused on not co-creating, but the projection being projected onto you, so that that's how you're reacting to it, instead of you projecting your intuitive, awareness from within to without. So I just see how it's being embedded all over. And I think about, like, people are like, oh, the 23rd and the 24th, and there's all kinds of stuff. There's going to be giant earthquakes and tsunamis, and things are going to be wiped out. And, oh, there's a giant comet going to hit the planet and whatever else. And it's like, anymore, I'm not so sure that I'm on a planet. I mean, I think it's kind of, the more I work with nature and plants, and, the last, 15, 16 years since I went to Steiner College and, permaculture and just everything else, I start to realize, like, there's like a simulation going on to a certain extent. It's a biological, organic simulation, which, I don't know about you, but I highly prefer over the digital one that they're trying to applicate into this one, to take it over into a digital kind of, setting. I'd rather have this one, the biological, organic one. Sorry, it's still the morning, I'm still drinking coffee, preferably. Now, I don't see, like, I don't know, like, I've read all the Hopi prophecies and their, oral history, that is fact, that they've lived through 4 mass extinctions. And that we're kind of in the 5th one. But, we also have to look at the word extinction and the meaning that it has been given to us, right? Oh, look at, they're playing over there. One's chasing one off because, don't get too close to my girls or I'm going to have to get you. So anyway, Jin's watching them too. Watching the quails outside of the fence move around, and they noticed her. So anyway, so I don't, know exactly what's going to happen. And to be perfectly honest, I'm really trying to stay out of it, because it doesn't really matter. If I'm extincted, that means that, like, my phase is over, right? Whatever this was. And it would be really good, like, I think about, if my body's extincted, right, then I still have this, other issue of, the soul and this energy body. And does it go back to where it originated, or is it going to get, filtered back up and harvested back up into their system, and then thrown into maybe the next phase is the digital phase, and now I'm an actual real computer, simulation that's, like in a computer framework, versus a biological, organic simulation that is operating and being able to dig and actually grow things in the holographic system. And so my choice is to go back to the no thing. And you can go back to my videos and you can hear about the no thing that I experienced. So I think that one faction deals with a lot of the biological material that's here. And, they have been in the phase of creating cross species, more extraterrestrial, trying to balance it out, beings. And So there's a faction that deals with biological, but the transition that they need to make, the evolution is to have half biological, half machine. So, they're in those experimental phases for that. And then eventually it'll just be all machine, computer, holographic. And then there's another faction that I'm going to call them the soul scoopers. And they took scoops of the no thing and which became like what we could call a soul or energy body or whatever else. But it came from the original thing, but it's not a thing because there's no light, there's no sound. It's just an undulating of energy, but it is bliss. Let me just tell you. And, to create the separation. So, and then eventually they sold us this thing that we needed salvation to this thing, right? But the thing will always readily accept us back if there's no blockages in the everything world and how we die, right? So to go back there. And so then what they do is they use the energy until there is no more energy left. And sometimes they get it all in one lifetime, and because it feeds this reality, right, that they've generated. And there's lots of different people that have talked about a lot of this stuff. And my preferable teachings are from the native people and the understandings, and my other teacher that I really love his work. He's been dead like a long time, but Rudolf Steiner. And I recommend that, if you can. It's very difficult reading. He was extremely brilliant. Esoteric science. I did like a whole curriculum that was, 6 months long every week. And we studied the first half. It's like 600 pages, but oh my God. And got to study with people who have, read it all and really kind of, based it in it for long periods of time. But he talks about how energetically, it's all created. And so I think we really have to get out of the duality and the polarity of good, bad, saint, sinner, judge, jury. And, stay out of the fear and try to be an intentional awareness, which is like watching the reality and seeing how you trigger events. And also, I've actually come into this place where things will pop up. Like, say, for example, I will know that if I do this, then it will trigger this kind of an event. So I decide not to do that, to not trigger it. And so I make another choice to do something else. So as of this last year, I've been noticing this for about 5 years, but this last year I've really been in intentional awareness and feeling that weird trigger thing. And they can be anything. Like, for example, say just the simple thing of like where I planted something in the ground and how I dug up the ground, or, that there may be some kind of trigger that triggers the neighbor, or triggers, something else in town, or triggers, even kind of a bigger event, or triggers, different people. And then I'll decide whether I want to trigger it or not. And, I can kind of sense the outcome. So what I do is I choose not to trigger that. And there's a weird aspect of me, kind of more, I guess, the reptilian part, but, that everybody has in your left hemisphere. And, one of the things Don Juan Matus used to say is that, the foreign installation is in our own mind. It's gotten into our mind, and so it's part of our corruption. And it's interesting how that part of myself will actually just keep going along, to trigger the things triggering. But then, because there isn't enough right hemisphere, operating with that left hemisphere, so you're moving kind of more in manic phase, or just do it phase, buck up phase. So, false evidence appears real, fear, and, they will attempt, to scare you to death. And you know what, there's this really great, let me finish with this, okay? But I have to take you somewhere else. Okay, so pardon me. Oh, it's a purple carpet. Yeah. They keep sending me more purple and more purple, even though I don't like things that are purple. I'm not a purple kind. I'm not a foofy little thing. Yeah. All right. And I just got this table and chair. I'm just so excited. It's like the first furniture I've owned in years. So I can sit out here, so it's kind of exciting. All right. So back to our happy place, and we'll watch the Princess Beautiful of the world. All right. So, yeah, there was something pretty amazing. I'm not going to show you all my notes. Some of my stuff's so far out there that I'm not really sure people could really grasp. Okay. So this is stuff that comes out of The Wheel of Time by Don Juan Matus. I was lucky enough that when I was around 14, I started reading, his first books. And I was allowed, when I was a kid, to read a lot of stuff that most people are not. I read a lot of cosmic kind of stuff, but, my family was kind of a cosmic family, and we were playing human. So, all right, so the warrior affects events by his awareness and his unbending intent. The human form is a conglomerate of energy fields that exist in the universe that are exclusively to human beings. Shamans call it the human form because energy fields have been bent and contorted by a lifetime of habits and misuse. A warrior knows he cannot change, and yet he makes it his business to try to change. Nevertheless, the warrior is disappointed when he fails to change. The only advantage warrior has over the average man warriors must be impeccable in their efforts to change in order to scare the human form and shake it away. After years of impeccability, a moment came when the human form cannot stand it anymore and leaves. A warrior can be deeply affected and even die as a result of the straightening of the energy. A habit needs all its parts to function. If some parts are missing, the habit is disabled and disassembled. I just thought that's, really kind of a profound thing, and the fear that they're perpetuating keeps the human form, but it adapts the human form still into habits. It's because they slowly scare you that this catastrophe is going to happen on the television, and they just control, your mind and scare you in small parts, which means that you adapt. In the shaman thing, it's about just scaring the human form so badly that it no longer functions or ceases to operate in that fashion, which opens you up to a whole other, multiple fields of energy that connect out through the universe or the cosmos, like Steiner talks about. So increments of fear, false evidence appears real, keeps you in the habit of the human form, which keeps you, it's your prison. Rudolf Steiner talks a lot about that. The human form can be your prison. Or you can shake off the habits, the foreign installation, control and monitoring, and then access multiple types of places of energy, which means that you could live forever in this form once it shook off all the habits and the beliefs and the thoughts that it was stuck in. Anyway, it's my main goal, I tell people in my life, is to cross out of here with my human form. That's my main goal and agenda, and then not reincarnate back here. And so it's just a process of developing that. And the human form is the hardest part to get developed. All right, everybody, that's your tour today. Your tour de Bridget. You made the tour. And just some thoughts. All right, everybody, don't be so attached. They need our biological material, some of us, and they also need our soul to be able to transfer into other things. So the likelihood of them actually destroying this world and the biological material called us and our souls and everything else is like zero. It's called fake it till you make it. And we just don't have to, even the alternative in the underground, is doing it. And I think that we should just, false evidence appears real. Maps, philosophy, science, mathematics. I mean, these things are false evidence. Because individually, this is all outside of us. Our evidence needs to be developed internally through feeling, which brings us to intellect, which brings us to, understanding and not understanding. Understanding means you're under it all. Like you believe what other people are telling you to believe, and they're standing on you, repressing you. And understanding is a development of you, of the higher you, and that changes your human form, develops the organic biological you as well. All right, that's it. Have a great day.